the studios, here in the lab, your host, Joshua. Welcome to the lab, everybody. How are you doing today? It is June 28th, 3:32 here on the West Coast, 6:32 on the East Coast, and anywhere else, I'm not exactly sure what time it would be anywhere else, but I digress from that. How's everybody doing? Why don't we have a little roll call on the way in? It's been a long time since we've done a little roll call, so let's do it.
There is no investigation. This boy has.
There is not, really? It is to me.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
Matter of fact, that kills the mood. Let's do something. Let's do this. That's a little bit. I like it. Let's see. There it is. Everywhere. New Jersey. Hulu. Florida. Planet Earth. Wait this specific thing. There's a place. MISSISSICCI. About that PDF. It is so good to have you guys in. Thank you for being here. And today it's a bit of a different subject. We aren't talking true crime in the least, at least right now, but obviously we will get back to that. But one thing that has been constantly on my mind and in my search to try to understand and deal with things better, as I bring these things out, I'm no expert on anything. It's also my way of hearing a message by delivering a message. It's a foreign concept, I know. But there are so many different things in life that make life even more incredibly difficult than it already is. Life is extremely difficult. People get lonely, people get sad, people get angry, people get depressed, hateful, spiteful, jealous, whatever. There's a million toxic traits that people have. And the last person that you would expect to be toxic towards you is your family. That being said, that's laughable when I say it like that. When I say you would never expect your family to be toxic, and then you would laugh and go, ha ha ha, you must not know my family. And correct, I don't. But I think when it comes to the toxic nature of relationships, where it is bred and the ground level of it is literally with your family. Nobody knows you better. Nobody knows how to upset you more. Nobody knows, it's just, they know how to get it to you. They know how to get to you. And it's not always even directly to your face. That's another part of this whole thing that I've always found interesting. I mean, I think all of us here have in one way or at some time had people talk badly about us behind our backs. to other family members, whether it be a close friend of the family, whether it be, your cousin, your uncle, your sister, your aunt, going around and saying things to people that just aren't true, or they may be even based in truth. They may be based in truth, but they're not really true. It's one of those embellishments, exaggerations, but we've all had it happen. We've all had it happen. It doesn't matter who you are, and it doesn't matter how decent of a human you are. It just happens. And I've really realized that the reason that kind of stuff does happen is because sometimes people are just inadequate. They don't feel good about themselves. And so the reason they go to another person in your family to talk down upon you without you in the present conversation, you not being invited into that present conversation to either have your say or defend yourself, they do this to they think that is a way to build the relationship. They think that's a way to build a relationship by going behind your back, connecting with somebody else who knows you, and seeing if they can make that connection. Now, if the other person isn't a toxic person, or, they're not insecure about who they are or what they do or how they live, then that's just, how it is. They tell them, no, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be a part of that. Nothing happened. This is just me talking. Nothing happened at all. But, when they go behind so in effect, what it really does is it makes them seem way worse. It makes them seem like they're the ones who can't cope. They can't, they don't feel like they measure up. And the way to boost themselves is to talk about other people, to demean other people, to lie, to whatever they want to do to bring you down. It's okay, because there are ways to combat that. Now, there used to be a fantastic show called, and I'm sure a lot of people have seen it, called Intervention. And basically the show was a family staging an intervention on an addict, whether it be, drugs, alcohol, rage, sex addiction. I don't know. There's just a million different things. And one of the things that always stood out to me, and I, along with, I'm guessing 99% of the people here have family members that do have, say, like a drug problem. And there's somebody that you love and adore, but they've basically lost their soul along the way. You don't see that same person in there. I have a cousin that I was extremely close with who has seemed to have lost his way over the years. We went different ways. Now, his story somewhat similar to mine, meaning, his mother was shot also by my father, and she survived, but for some reason, something in him was never able to cope. I went to a stable house. He went to a house that had turmoil for whatever reason. And like I said, his mother survived, my aunt. And we were born a month apart, and great friends, brothers, cousins. We were cousins, but we were really brothers. I mean, you're a month apart, you're raised together. And he's lost his way. And he asked me one time, he said, Josh, why isn't our relationship what it used to be. And when I say what it used to be was us being around each other every day, loving each other, calling each other, hanging out with each other. And it went from that to nothing. By my choice, nothing. I couldn't do it. I could not do it anymore. And I'll tell you why. So in the show Intervention, when they stage this intervention, and they basically in a loving way tell people why they can't do what they're doing, and basically I'm going to cut you off if you don't stop doing this. And that is a harsh reality to tell somebody that you love or you care for and adore, and it is really hard to tell people to fly a kite. It's super difficult. But the way that it was brought out was that you tell this person, look, I love you and I love you with all my heart, but I do not love you to death, meaning I will not watch you kill yourself intentionally the way that you're doing it, to run your life into the ground. I can't save you from that. It's got to be a joint effort. You need help. You need counseling. You need rehabilitation. Beautiful. But I won't watch you kill yourself. Meaning with the drugs and the alcohol. It's just not something I'm willing to do. And the reason I'm not willing to do it is because it's heartbreaking to watch somebody do that to themselves, especially knowing the kind of person that they are. But I will not subject myself to that every day. One of the best ways to do that is you say, I'm done. I'm done. And he said, why don't we have that relationship like we used to? I said, we live very different lives. We just do. You know, he would always go back to us being kids, and he was kind of encapsulated back to childhood, and he still has been. And there would be moments where he would go to rehab and get sober and things like that. And he'd be fantastic to be around. And then a week later, you would hear something, off the wagon or whatever. And it just became like this routine. And that continues today. And so, you pray and you hope that everything's going to be fine for them. But here's the thing. Here's the problem. And once again, this is the best way that I've ever heard it. When you have a toxic person in your life, specifically your family member that you want to help, and we've all been there, and we've all been done wrong in a lot of ways by a lot of people, it's very tough to deal with. But the reason it is so important to be able to cut people off that are toxic in your life is it affects your physical health and your mental health. Why should you have to be subject to somebody who does such inward damage to you while you try to solve a relationship or fix a relationship that the other person has zero interest in fixing? Why should I have to take the brunt of that? Why? That's not fair. That's not fair if I am toxic towards somebody else and for some reason you can't help yourself, You have to be able, and this is a really difficult thing to do, and it takes maybe years of self-reflection. But if you can't, in good faith, know that you're not harming somebody else, say I'm friends or my family, I'm bringing them down, that they are trying to quit smoking cigarettes. So I offer them a smoke, or they're trying to quit drinking, but I'm sitting there drinking beer in front of them. Obviously, I don't have their best. Interests at heart and in my mind. And that's not right. Why should I be allowed to bring that person should cut me off right away? Done. Fair enough too. But we all have the right back and forth to be able to feel how we want to feel and choose who is in our life and who's not, based on how we're supposed to feel, and not always feeling down and depressed. And it's just a terrible thing. It's an absolutely terrible thing. And it is okay to cut people off. It doesn't mean you have to cut them off forever, but I mean, it's weird. It's a weird thing to have to do. Another thing is, if you, I don't know if you've ever had a family member that you tell something to, you say, oh, I got some great news. And then they come back at you with equally great news that's happened to them in the past. Or, you tell them bad news and they don't just listen or just brush it off. That's not very helpful. But it really is the people that talk behind your back that gets back to you that can just crush your soul, because you had a high opinion of that person. Chris McDonough says all the time there's 3 different lives. It's the private life, the personal life, and the secret life, or something like that. The McFluff life. And that's true, because you don't know. I mean, people have lived next to serial killers for years. Now, I'm not saying that your family has a serial killer in it, which they may or may not. How would we know? People wear masks. People wear masks. And so that makes it extremely difficult to even classify or identify who those people are. But it is damaging to the soul to find out that somebody that you have a very high opinion of and love for doesn't quite share those same feelings for you behind your back. Not to your face, but behind your back. There's something different when somebody wants to have a conversation. That's a different subject. When somebody wants to talk about it, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with talking. There is something wrong with gossiping. And between gossip and just the toxic nature of gossip, you can't fix it. It's got to stop. And when it doesn't stop, your life spirals. It's really, going back to my cousin who wants to have a relationship, but I'm just not willing to do that, especially at this point in our lives. The reason is I cannot save him. Only he can save him. Now, I can help, but he has to help too. The best way I've heard it described is sort of like a lifeguard. If a lifeguard goes out to save somebody who's drowning, and that person continually panics and panics, and they kick and they push and they splash, the lifeguard will literally push you away from them, push you and say, stop, you have to stop fighting or we're both gonna drown. You cannot both drown. Why should I drown for you when you won't stop kicking and pushing and fighting? It's impossible. Absolutely impossible to do. And just as hard on the inside, how much it hurts, I'm not going down with somebody else's ship. I'm not going down with somebody else's ship just because they're my family or they're my close friend. Your close family, your close friends, the people that want you to do well in life, those are the people that you want to surround yourself with. If you take the 5 people in your life that you spend the most time with, you are the medium of those people, meaning you take on all the personality of those 5 people. You ever end up mimicking something that somebody says that you're around all the time? It just kind of happens. It's how our brain is. It just kind of gets trapped in the fold. You know, you kind of whatever clique you're with. I mean, that's how they do it. You know, it's like, oh, well, the thing we're saying now is like it would be like me saying aloha because Chris says it, or I had a buddy that, and I picked up on this, as saying unreal. He would always say that. When you'd say something, you go unreal and say it very deliberately. And over time, that started to become my reaction. Unreal. And then my children would say it and still do say it. Unreal. Oh, that is unreal. Now, that's just a very small, simple example. That something so small could really make its way in to your everyday vocabulary without really noticing it. And then when you start hanging out with toxic people and they're saying toxic things about others, and you're feeding into that because maybe you feel like you don't qualify, that you don't matter. And the way to elevate yourself is to have commonality with somebody who wants to talk bad about others, because for some reason, for a short, minuscule amount of time, it makes them feel better about their pathetic existence. It's not okay to do. And we all have done it. All of us. All of us have done this. One reason or another. There are a million different reasons why we do that. Maggie Crover says YouTube drama much. No, we're talking about real life issues only. We're not talking about YouTube people. We're talking about the people that know us the best, not the people that think that they know us the best because they look up and tell us. No, we're not talking about that. This has nothing to do with, this has to do with people that you have actual close human relationships with. That's what this is. If you watch from the beginning, you'll understand. And now, see, here's a perfect example. And I don't know if this was a real comment, or was this meant to be some sort of sarcastic thing? I don't know. I'm not really sure, but I'm reacting to it in a way that came across negative. And now, see how that works? It's very easy to do. Josh, I miss what prompted this topic. Do you have a family, Tony? Have they ever been bad to you? Nothing prompted this topic. It's just been on my mind. Nothing prompts this. Something epic doesn't have to happen for, this to be, that's not how it has to be. So let me read it. See here. My brother-in-law is a sociopath, and I have had to stay away from him now for almost 9 years. It's been a journey. He knows he's done so much damage, but it's your fault and so much more. It's kind of the reflection. It's kind of the reflective behavior is what it's called. Tony says, I lost 2 sisters who had opioid problems. They passed young, so I understand. I'm really sorry to hear about that. It's a very tough thing to watch somebody going down. And Lulu, thank you so much for gifting these memberships. That's such thoughtful. And so, it doesn't tell me who becomes new members, or I'd like to, but Ray became a member, which is awesome. And wink at me. Thank you for that. But you gotta, so once again, it's not about being better than somebody or thinking that, and a lot of people may perceive it this way, and it's just not true. That's not how things are perceived through the eyes of somebody who's trying to be healthy, who's trying to do the right thing by distancing themselves. We've all been there, and it's okay to walk away from that person. It's all right. Barb says, love him from a distance. Sorry for your loss, Tony. And I share those sentiments as well. I just always go back to the lifeguard. It always surprises me. The analogies that you can use in life that reflect so well on a non-physical situation, like a physical act, like to help somebody who's falling off of a cliff. I mean, they've got to help themselves as well. They've got to hold tight, and they've got to listen to what you're trying to tell them to do. If they can't, you're most likely both going to die. You're going to both fall off that cliff. You don't need to. Both don't need to. Especially the one that drove themselves to that cliff and was hanging off the side of it. They did that. Now, if they want the help up, you can give it to them. But if they fight you on it, you have to let go. And that may be to their demise. And that is a terrible thing. It's a very terrible thing. I have been through all you're talking about by a few others, but had to realize that people's opinions of me are not my business. It's my opinion of me that should only matter to me. And that is so true. But how hard that is, it is so difficult, especially when people, all they do is tell you things like, you're not good enough, or, these things get back to you behind your back, and that person won't even talk to you about it, but they're nice to your face. How is that a good thing? It's not. It's never a good thing. It's never. Sometimes the chat, the way the chat moves, I had to get out of a relationship because towards the end, I was wanting to hurt him. It was bad. That honesty right there, and that knowledge to be able to understand that is something that most people don't have, and you do. It's hard when they won't own up to things. Well, by the way, toxic people don't apologize. They find no fault. They find no fault in themselves. It's everybody else's fault. That is the motive of a toxic person, is to demean and demoralize, and being self-aware is a wonderful thing, and a rare thing as well. Billy, thank you for being a member for 5 months. That's so awesome. I say, yeah, Great. My phone is overheating. Phoenix weather. Moving the computer. It's a toxic phone. You got to separate yourself from it right now. Jazzy B says, I needed to hear all this. And so did I. And so do I. And that's why I seek out these kinds of things, because I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm not some knowledge guru, other than I do want to try to be the best person that I can be. And having people around me that don't bring that out in me is detrimental. It's really detrimental. The biggest, I've been betrayed by the people that are supposed to be the most protective of me. Everybody say, I'm going to go tell my dad. I'm going to go do it. Well, I couldn't. Can't go tell my dad. My dad's not going to protect me. I'm scared of him. You have any idea what that does to somebody for their relationships in the future, lifelong relationships? It damages it. Something I fight against every day. And it sucks. But I work at it. I certainly work at it. I try my best. Sometimes I try my best. Sometimes I don't. I'll be honest with you. I mean, there's some days I just don't even feel like trying my best. Some days I just don't feel like trying my best. It is what it is. Not saying that it's my intention isn't to want to do that, but it doesn't make it necessary, or it doesn't make it necessarily true that I'm going to. Like, I always want to do my best, but that doesn't mean I'm always going to do my best. I wish it was. But it's not. Did I miss? Amy says, I'm an alcoholic, now sober 9 years. Congratulations for 9 years of sobriety. But ask anyone, ask if anyone could save me at my lowest. You can't save someone who's not ready to be saved. It's a teeter-totter, It's like tug of war. You're working against, teeter-totter, you work together, but tug of war, you're working against each other. And in that sense, trying to pick up dead weight is like the hardest thing ever. If you've ever had to pick up an old person who fell down, or even just a kid who's asleep, and want to move them to their bed. You know how hard it is to actually be able to move that child or that person? Absolutely. Congratulations on your sobriety. That's a huge deal. That is a huge deal. Self-care is difficult. Depression is a liar and tells you that you don't deserve to be treated kindly, makes you feel like you're not worthy, but you are. We all are. We all deserve kindness. That's true. We all deserve it. Whether we all get it or not is a different thing. And I can't see who keeps gifting memberships. Who is doing this? It was very sweet of you guys. Congratulations, Amy. So you, yeah, it does. Lisa says, I always tell people, especially if it's a breakup, divorce they're going through, to read the book In the Meantime by Liana Van Zant. It's life-changing. I've never read that, but I would be curious. Mimi says, I have worked very hard to break the toxicity in my family that has affected 2 generations as far as I can see. And that's another thing. It's a cycle. It's an insane cycle. And I just don't want it. I've had so many negative experiences in my life that will stick with me forever, just the same way that most of you have, if not all of you. Watching Chris's show the other night when he spoke about his son who has passed. All these years later, it's tragic, but he has pulled himself up and continued his life's work while harboring pain, but he did not let that pain turn toxic. Unfortunately, my cousin did and hasn't been able to find his footing in life. My pain and my suffering hasn't turned toxic. I mean, it has at some points, and I've really, really tried my best. Once again, I say overall, I've tried my best. That doesn't mean it's what everybody else's best is, but I could be completely on the opposite side here, folks. I'm telling you, like that was another thing that always bothered me growing up, was people saying, "Oh, all that stuff happened to you, and look how you are now. You're pretty normal. You're good." Yeah. It's like, great. Thanks, Dad. Thanks for putting that label on me. Oh yeah. You ever what happened to that kid? Be lucky if he blah, blah, blah. No, man, it's not luck. I've worked my ass off to even be a functioning human. I think that I applaud myself sometimes for even being able to. And just like you, because it's something that you have to work at. It's something that you have to work at. It doesn't happen overnight. I'm one of the most imperfect people ever. I just, I just like to talk and try to learn. Try my best. But sometimes other people's bests aren't up to yours, and you can't associate with them anymore. I'm really struggling right now as I just moved back in with my toxic mom. And because I'm acting like an equal adult and being assertive, she's up to toxicity and abuse so bad to keep me down. And that's just a terrible, terrible feeling, Miss Enigma. It is a reflection on the other people, not you. And that's another thing that's really, really hard to do. Where the wind blows says time to move again. I mean, if it doesn't get better, It's just a tough thing. You know, it's so tough. I know. You had great grandparents that raised you, Josh. I did. I do. I still do. True crime and other stuff. Hey, love being here. I have to get back to work. Thank you for stopping by. It's always great. Let's see here. My siblings always said that it was a blessing in disguise. I didn't grow up with my bio dad, but also my dad that raised me hurt me just as bad, if not worse. Yeah. That's a whole, I mean, it kind of splinters off, but it's like a very large splinter from this conversation, because it is so strange how bad parents can treat children, and yet how we still desire their approval and their want. It doesn't even matter the age. It doesn't matter the age. Not all parents are good parents. It's just how it is. Just because somebody is your parent doesn't mean they have your best intentions at heart. Look at my dad. Look at OJ. I don't know why I always bring up OJ, but I do. He's a perfect example. He's just a perfect example. But just because they're your parent doesn't mean they have your best interest at heart, and that they should treat you with the same respect that they would treat anybody with, or they don't deserve your time. Anybody, if you truly are trying to be a good person and trying to do the right things, and people can't see that, and people can't realize that, then they're not worth your time. Like, at all. Danielle says, Josh, my soul absolutely loves your soul. Thank you for being you and being original and being concise above all else. You give me hope for humanity. I appreciate the positive message. Thank you, Danielle. It's a very nice thing to say. Northern Farm Girl says, Josh, thanks for opening this topic up to be as open as we can. There are so many sides of toxic. It can be a daily thing. Be there for people. It can be a real struggle for the norm. What's that? Being human. We all have ups and downs. Amen to that. We certainly do. We're all just imperfect humans trying to kind of just make it through. I mean, life is hard enough without other people just trying to bring you down. If you took toxicity out of the equation in your life, you still have problems to deal with. But at every turn, you are faced with those problems and toxic people. You're always going to be faced with toxic people. You're always going to be faced with challenges. You're always going to be faced with feelings of insecurity, anxiety, depression. And in this hyper-focused world that we live in, where information is shared at the touch of a button to tons of people, it's gotten worse and worse and worse. Thank you, Lab. By reading the chat, a lot of us needed to vent. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. Northern Lights says, or because they can make babies doesn't mean they should. Absolutely. Well, I think everybody has a certain level of some sort of toxicity. Can two non-toxic people make for a toxic relationship? Yeah. Yeah, you can bring the worst out in people, because once that relationship's formed, that's where the cracks for the toxicity comes in. Jealousy, you know, whose house are we going to for Thanksgiving this year? And then, you know, Kyle's mom's like, why aren't you coming this year? We're like, well, you know, we went there last year, and then it just becomes a whole fiasco. But yes, I truly believe that. Well, Rue says my mom is a psycho. Well, yikes. I'm sorry to hear that. Muscles and mascara. Hey, how are you? Good to see you. I'm speaking the truth, but I'm also trying to live it. I'm also trying to live it the same way that you guys try. I struggle to understand how a mother can be jealous of a daughter. I mean, you can be jealous of anybody, but that's a thing, I guess, you know. I have a cousin, another cousin. I have a big family. So there's like lots of room for toxicity, but you know, with digress from there. I have a cousin who grew up poor in a trailer. Dad worked, mom, you know, kind of, and no joke. I was just talking to him about this the other day. He had to buy his own milk with allowance. So what would happen is at the beginning of the month, the parents would buy, like, it was just a whatever ration of milk, you know, with cereal, and if it ran out by a certain time, then the $5 a week or whatever they got allowance, which it wasn't much, if they wanted more milk, they had to go buy their own milk. And as a kid, that's a bit harsh. It's not something that I dealt with, and I thought it was kind of like, well, it was rough. So anyway, the father's at the time was a drunk, and I mean, the kind of drunk, like, this is how drunk he could be. This guy was like, he's still around, but he's like 5'8", 135, 40 pounds. And he could drink like a 24 pack of like Natty Ice overnight. I mean, it was impressive by any means. Dude had like 8 DUIs. Don't know how he didn't go to prison, but matter of fact, he got a DUI one time. He got pulled over and said, well, were you speeding? Or he goes, was I speeding? And I go, no, you were going like 10 miles an hour. And because he was driving so slow, he was trying to be careful. And then when they gave him the breathalyzer, the cop, when he gave him the breathalyzer, he got back a huge, the reading was like, I don't know, it was like 3 times the legal limit. And he taps on it and goes, he thought it was broken. That's how drunk the guy was, right? He's like, he's like shaking it. It's like, oh my God, do that again. Holy crap, man. You really that drunk? And he's like, yeah, I am. But anyway, very, you know, whatever had gone on in his life. And I don't know what it was, but it was constantly bringing his oldest son down in his life. And it was always so difficult, and the relationship was rocky. And so the boy made a decision at a pretty young age that I've got to go. I've got to go. I cannot be here anymore. I just had to go. His little brother was mad at him for leaving. Said, you left me there, but it's not like he could have taken his little brother with him. So there was resentment there. But the oldest had to do what he had to do. He left. And he struggled the beginning years of life. He was kind of a nomad. He kind of did job to job, blah, whatever. And then one day he met a young lady. I think at the time he might have been working at Taco Bell or something like that. Wasn't a good job. Met a young lady. And she was perfect for him. And they dated and got married, had a child. He got a great job, does well. Life is good for him. But I don't think all of his family is happy for him. I don't believe that his family is happy for him. He's expressed this to me. Little brother still resents him. They're closing in on their 40s. And they still harbor resentment for a young man who felt that he just had to get out of there. I can't take it anymore. And yes, he is more successful than his brother and his father, and they can't stand it. They want him at their level. And he said, not a freaking chance. It's not happening. I got one shot at this. And that is that. And he did what he had to do for himself and now enjoys his life fully. And he's going to show his child those same traits. It was always in him, but had he stayed, what would have happened? Now, the younger brother had the opportunity at some point to do the same thing. It didn't quite happen that way. And the muck is where he was left standing in the muck. But he could have chosen the example that his brother did instead of saying, you abandoned me or you left me there. It wasn't his responsibility. His responsibility was him. He wasn't the father. And don't get me wrong, after so many years, he tried very hard to help his family. Many, many times. And it came around to bite him in the butt almost every time. My bio mom has the soap convinced that I'm worthless and unacceptable, that I could never expect my dad's acceptance of me. To this day, I am scorched earth. He died in March without ever convincing me, and I feel so guilty. I'm really sorry to hear that. That's another thing that closure does. Who really is closure for? Closure is for the person that's doing the closing. Closure is for you. You don't have to have somebody else's blessing to have closure. It's for me. My closure is for me. Your closure is for you. My opinions are mine. Your opinions are yours. And the people in your life, your family members who talk behind your back, They don't do it because they don't love you. They don't do it because they don't respect you, which very well both might be true, but that's not why they do it. They do it because they don't love or respect themselves. And you can bet your bottom dollar that they struggle at night with the empty feelings and the worthlessness that they have projected on you. See, you don't get to be inside their head. They do. You're only inside your own. And we all struggle. But like I said, they're not doing it for you. They're not doing it because of you. They may not even have anything against you. They just don't know how to form relationships with other people without a connection. Some sort of bonding subject that they feel that they can hold on to with that person. And for some reason, you're the rope. Some people never want closure. They just want to keep the door open, and it's selfish sometimes. Thank you so much, Connie. That is great. And I really do need to figure out, I hope somebody's keeping track of the people gifting memberships so I can thank them. It doesn't show up for me. I learned at a young age when I was given up for adoption, when to stay and when to walk away. It made me a great mom. Trial by fire is a real thing. It's on the job training. You know, I made so many mistakes in my life. You know, nothing ever like to end up in like jail or prison or anything like that, but just in handling situations. Should I have said something? Should I not have said something? You know, and I go back and forth with those things. Yes, Courtney, I'm very good. Thank you. Appreciate that. KP Bass, thank you so much for that. This is a fantastic show. You need to have more shows like this, Josh. That's my plan. That is my plan. Let me see here. So we got Lulu. Thank you so much for gifting memberships. Teresa, Noel, a mystery maven. You guys are so sweet to do that for people. And it just really, this is what makes our channel special here. It's just, you know, we rarely have any problems. Our mods are the best. They get along. They love each other. They work together, just like everybody in the chat and just like every member and subscriber and people that just listen. Beginning to think I am the most crazy here. LOL, just kidding. We have all been through so much here. That's right. That's right. We really have. Not your cross to bear, inspire yourself. Yeah, you ever had somebody just absolutely just drop their luggage at your feet, emotional baggage and luggage at your feet and say, these are my problems. That's why I am the way that I am. And sometimes that's partially true. But a lot of times it's used as an excuse to also treat people bad. It's also an excuse to treat people bad. And that is not acceptable either. You want to tell them, don't lay that at my feet. I have my own problems. Thank you, sweet tea. Appreciate that. It can be very heavy luggage. And I apologize. Yesterday, this show was supposed to happen, but we're back today, and I'm so happy to be here. And I will be back tomorrow with a show about Garrett Phillips and Nick Hillary. I will be talking with civil attorney for Potsdam, New York, by a man named Tom Mortati, and he represented Potsdam in this murder trial. So it's going to be something special. The trial's over, and now the civil trial's over, and we would just like to revisit it. Thank you guys so much for being here.
There is no investigation. This boy has.
There is not, really? This to me.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
But I had to put her on the side and worry about
I'm gonna do what I gotta do for me and my boys and my kids.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
There is no investigation. This boy
There
has.
is not, really? This to me. Right. Idiot.
I've done my best. It's hard, it's real tough.
And make sure to like the Facebook page as well.
But I had to put her on the side.
We have the link for that. I don't know if we do or not.
I'm gonna do what I gotta do for me and my boys and my kids.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
Live from the NBD Production Studios, you're in the lab with your host, Joshua Diaz.
There is no investigation. This boy
There
has.
is not, really? This to me.
But I had to put her on the side and worry about the boys. But I had to.
There is no investigation.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
But I had to put her. But I had to put her on the side and worry about the boys.
Don't say any F's and stuff. Don't say any F's and stuff. Don't say any F's and stuff.